Okay, in this tutorial we're going to look at how to move simple geometry within Spoke Creator. You can see I've gone and just used a polybox atom here to create this piece of geometry, and it's built itself around the origin. So what we can actually start to do now is use other atoms to start to move this geometry around the scene. So there's two ways of doing that within the move atom that we're looking at. So let's first go and create that. I'm pressing tab to get to the search and just type in move. And you can see that as soon as we've connected this up with a geometry to geometry connection, you can see there's a handle that's prompted in the 3D view. So I can actually start to just move this manually just using the interface. It's quite a simple, quick way of doing things. But there might be cases where you actually need to start moving it by an exact amount or with a network that's created before this. And we'll use a thing called vectors, which will actually start to translate where this geometry is going. So if I click on the inputs of the move here, you can see that we have two options, the nudge amount and the translation. What we're going to focus on here is the translation. That is an input that will take in a vector and move it in a certain amount or direction that the vector is prompting. So let's just go and create a really simple one. We'll cover vectors a little bit later, but just for the example's sake, I'm just going to search for XYZ to vector. Essentially what that does is it gets your three axes, which is your X, your Y and your Z, and put them all together to create a path which this geometry is going to move along. So I'm just going to plug that connection into the translation. You can see that now it is connected into there. And I'm going to create some floats, which are basic number values, and plug these into, let's just have the X now. So now I can go back to the move. You can see it actually hasn't moved anywhere, but since we have now got a network before that that is going to tell it where to move, if I go back to the float, I'm just holding shift, so I'm now making two nodes active. You can see that once we have a slider value here, that when we actually start to move this, it's plugging in data into the XYZ to vector and then moving it along that certain path. So let's just move this up to, it's around 5. Now we go to the XYZ to vector and click on output. You can see that the X has now got that same reading of nearly 5. So you can see how we can have a network before something, before this move atom, that determines where this piece of geometry is going to go into space. You could have another set of values for the Y and the Z, so it's actually moving along the X, Y and Z to a point in 3D space. So that's basically how to start to use the move tool within Spoke Creator.